Okay, we had a lot of requests for videos on how to make a cage. Now, come look here. This is the finished product. I want you to see some of the details of the product. 1/2-inch mesh, stainless so it doesn't rot. The wood is PT, and these are 2x4s. We start out with 12 footers, and then we cut them down. 12 foot works best, so that way when you're cutting them, there's less waste. Look here. Some of the things that you're going to need. Hasps, keep the cages down. Now the reason we use one on each side is because with time every wood seems to bow and lizards seem to be able to find a way. So when you close the cage, put the hasp down and it holds it down. This one we kind of spoiled a little bit. We put a little handle on it just to be a little silly. Now if you look, very, very important here, look on the bottom. The wood on the bottom is laid flat, not on its side, and that's extremely important because when you climb in there, if you step on that and the wood's there, the screen then has no give, and it pulls off the wood, and then you wind up with gaps. We're going to show you. Some of the things you need as well. Again, we went over the 2x4 PT, pressure treated, so it weathers. A chop saw, a pneumatic staple gun to fasten the screen. Obviously a regular drill, sometimes a hammer to move things over, and wire clippers to clip long screws and short screws. We'll go over that as we build. Thanks for watching. Okay, first part we're going to build is the bottom base that we talked about. Look over here, and I want to show you. Now look here real quick. Here we pre-cut wood. Now, picture back to me. We're making multiple cages, so you don't have to do this. But when you're making multiple cages, it's good to pre-cut all the sizes of wood, and then you just assemble it. If you look over there, Austin right now is chopping the wood. That's called a chop saw. As far as being a man goes, there's probably nothing cooler than having really good tools, especially DeWalt. Now, if you look here, these sections, this being the bottom section, these sections here are 72 inches. So for making the bottom base, you have a 72-inch section, a 72-inch section, and then 3 65s. This gives you a nice base. We're going to assemble it. I'm going to show you how we're going to put the screws in sideways. Austin, can I get a couple of the screws, please? And then we're going to cut the sections of screen. If you look over there at the screen, this is 1/2-inch wire mesh. You cut 6-foot sections out because it's 3 foot, and then you lay it out over the thing. Now come over here. Look how we have to assemble this. Now because we're laying the wood on this area, now some guys like to use screws, some guys like to use nails. I like screws because they seem to hold a little better. Plus, we don't have a nail gun that'll shoot diagonally. But look here, now because you're laying the wood sectionally, it'd be a little dangerous for the wood to go into here and into here. You'd need a 4-foot screw, plus it would probably split. So you hold it here. Go ahead, Austin.
These are 3-inch screws, exterior screws. You want to get coated so they last longer.
Have one guy help you hold it, and then you got to go in diagonally into the wood. Holding it nice and tight. Now you go right back to the other side, putting the wood back in place. All right. See, now you do this on all your sections, and then we'll show you we'll show you how to build the size. But I want to also remind you that when you're cutting your wood, if you're wise and you use the 12-foot pieces of wood, it's good. It gives you these scraps that are about a little over 1 foot long. Don't throw these out. You're going to need these later in building it, and we'll show you where they come into play. Big tool. Okay, so in assembling the cage, after we've assembled the bottom, now we have to assemble the ends. Now what we're gonna do is, these aren't gonna be flat. Austin, lay those out. So look, stay over here. So we're gonna have this part and this part, and then we're gonna cut this part and this part. Now obviously, because these are overlapping, this is gonna be a little longer than this, and we'll redo that. But first, to do the ends, one side and the other, look how Austin's laying out the wood here. Now what are the sizes here now, Austin?
This is 32, 32, and 72.
It doesn't go like this.
This 72 is the same as your base. The long ends are 72 on the sides and the base.
So it gets laid out like this, and now you don't have to, look at me, you don't have to go in sideways into the wood. You can go through the top of the 2x4 and tie it through that. So now, because you have, watch, you have 72 and 72, which accommodates your 6-foot side here. And then you have 32, right? 32?
Yeah, 32.
But you're adding now the excess from the top of your 72, which is just about 2 inches. So 32 in reality is 36. That's what makes your cage 36 inches tall, plus the little bit of inch or so here that you get from here. So again, first assembling the two far sides, which are the long sides, 72, 32. Tie them together, stand them up here. We're going to tie this one up, put it on the other side, and then we'll come back and explain the sizes on this. So, first we did the outside sides. Now we're going to do the inside sides. As you see, we already assembled this one. Dimensions are 64.5 and 32. That makes up the difference of what's left over from the outside. This is the outside sides. These are the inside sides. Got that? Careful, Kevin. That's not so what we're going to do is now, this being the outside, we're going to screw these in top of the inside. Again. Do not, I repeat, if you're watching this video for instruction, and I'm going to have Andrew put it across the front, do not tie your cage together yet. Do not screw your sides in yet. Before we screw the sides in, we're going to put the screen on. We're going to put it on the inside, and we'll go over all that a little later. 64.5, 32. That gives us just about 3 foot in height, easy enough to still get into. Stay with us. So what is Austin doing now? Now we're going to cut the sections that we're going to staple down onto the cage. There's our finished assembled cage. Now watch what we did, again, just to revisit. We made our bottom, remember we made it flat. Then we made our long sides and our short sides. Now we're not going to make a top for it. The reason being is there's no reason to put a top on it when you can just staple down your screen right to the top, and then we'll assemble the door. We'll show you how to do that in the next video, in the next segment. So right now, what we did is we went to Home Depot. I don't care if you go to Home Depot, Lowe's, or Ace, or wherever they sell it cheaper. I used to be a very loyal Home Depot customer. I'm not anymore. They didn't honor some prices, and I didn't like that. And besides, they ain't giving me no money. So what we did is we got 100-foot rolls of 3-foot, half-inch wire mesh. 100-foot rolls. They cost us, what they cost, about $75?
A roll?
Yeah.
I think a little less.
About 70, 75 bucks. If you can get it cheaper than that, you're doing good. Now it's 100 foot, and what we'll do now is we're gonna cut, for one cage, 8 sections, 3 foot by 6 foot. It's obviously already 3 foot, because that comes pre-cut. And now he's gonna cut 6-foot sections and 8 of them. Why 8 of them? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 7, and then for the door, 8. 8 sections, 3 foot, half-inch, wire mesh. We'll be back. So while Austin cuts the 6-foot pieces, Josiah is zipping them down. Now he's using a staple gun, what's called a pneumatic staple gun. Cheap DeWalt compressor, a couple of $100, $100 some odd dollar stapler. If you don't have that, you could always use those U-shaped nails and tap them in there. But this makes it so much easier, and you could probably rent one fairly cheap as well. So be careful, because you can really staple your hand good. Now here, hold on a second. I want you to see, stop. I want you to see about how far away, look how far away he's putting the staples. Every 4 or 5 inches, maybe 6 inches top, and on the corners we put a big group of them in. Reason we do that is, if 1 or 2 staples pulls out, now all of a sudden you have a 2-foot gap, 18-inch to 2-foot gap, your animal's gone and you just wasted how much ever money you put into it. For me, that could be extremely expensive with some of the animals that we have. So, we start to staple them down. Now, before we assemble a cage, we're gonna staple all the pieces together, and then we'll come back and show you how we tie the cage together. Okay, following it so far, now you take those sections that we cut out, the 6-foot by 3-foot rolls of sections, and now you've pinned them, stapled them, or otherwise connected them to the sections that we cut with the wood. Now you'll wind up with, obviously, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sections. Now watch what we do here. Stay with me. You put your 2 long sections on either end, and your short sections go in the middle. Now you come back with your 2.5-inch screws, or nails if you have a nail gun, and now you level this off. Now I want you to notice something. You see, come over here, show them here. You see how we put the screen on the inside? Why do we do that? Look at the screen, how it meets screen at the bottom. Screen is touching screen. That's reason being is, over the next 2 or 3 years, as you put this cage outside, winters and summers that we have in Florida, but we do have a rainy season, the animal is going to be digging. He'll be making his nest, he'll be trying to get out. That's what they do. Even with 2x4s that are pressure treated, over the course of a couple of years, he's going to cut through it. Even though it takes him a little bit, he's just going to scratch a little bit of time, We just changed a bunch of cages you guys might have seen in some of the last videos. Some of them, the whole bottom was gone. We didn't know, and we actually had a couple of tegus escape their cages, and we didn't know how they were getting out until we lifted the cage up. Man, they literally scratched. But when you butt the screen to the screen, now there's no wood for them to scratch. You understand why we did that? So what happens is now, you come back, as Austin just leveled these out, put your screw in the top, and you go all the way in. Now that just tied these 2 sections together. Now I would put these things in generously. Every foot or so. Now, we screwed this one down to the bottom base. Now watch what happens here now. Now we're going to screw this one down to there, but don't forget you also have to base, come over here, you have to screw this piece to this. So, again, the same way. Now again, you got to stay at the end. That's what I love about these Makitas. They got that light on there. Helps you see. Man, you got that level over there?
Yep.
So anyway, I'm not going to show you guys. We're going to screw this all together, come back and show you how we assemble the top section and the door. Okay, so we fastened all the sides together, and now we have an open top. The last part is the most important, especially when you're making a cage that you want to be secure. Now, some options for you, if you look, Some guys like to put another bolt, another brace here. So they'll cut another 32-inch piece and they'll put it in there. I don't think it's necessary because I use 2x4 and it's pretty strong. However, this is the most important part. Now, this is where assembling the top section. What we did was we measured from here to here, and it's 6 foot, which means that our measurements were correct. And we made a mark at the 3 foot halfway mark. We cut another section, 34 and a half.
64 and a half.
Thank you. 64 and a half, and that fit exactly from this piece to that piece, and now we fasten it in. Awesome, good, fasten the last piece. Now watch how this one has to be fastened in the same way as the other one. If you have a nail gun, it obviously makes it a little easier. If you're using a screw, you have to angle it in.
Angle it
go
in.
Go on the other side, show. Now, you choose which section you want to be the door section. Now again, remember I said you're not making a top for it, you already have a top. Now, the one downside is you look, because there's not an exact science when you're cutting the screen, you're gonna get this little excess. You fold it over the top and don't worry about putting your wood over. You just fold it down. You can use a piece of wood if you don't have strong fingers. Now, this is gonna be our door side, so this side has gotta be fastened. So we take another sheet, another piece, where we've already folded down the excess, take another piece from over here. This side. Another piece of screen, and because you cut sections properly, you'll have a little bit of, I got plenty of excess over here if you need to go over there. You have a little bit of excess, we'll fold it over so we don't get any sticky edges. Now that is one other thing you gotta be real important about. If you got little kids or something around, be careful because the edges on your chicken wire, on your screen, are really sharp. I like to fold them over, that cuts out your edge, doesn't make it as sharp. Now we're gonna fasten this down and I'm gonna come back and explain the last two sections. First being how to cut the door. Almost finished with your cage. With a beautiful Tegu cage ready for any monitor, Tegu. You can put a big snake in here, but it'll probably mesh with no sort of wood. However, assembling the top section, the actual door section, is a little bit on the tricky side. Because now watch, you're going 72 inches, so you need two more pieces that are 72 inches. 72, 72, right? Then this middle section, where'd you cut this one?
29.
The reason we cut this one 29 is because it has to be fastened with your hinge. Come over here, Bubba. To the middle of this. So you intentionally are making your door, look at me, shorter this way so that your hinge will make up for it. We're going to show you later when we put the hardware on how that actually works out. So 29, 72, two pieces, and again, go ahead, show them how you got to screw this in. This is a little different. Now, if you have some experience with construction and you have a nice nail gun, it makes it that much easier. However, for us laymen, you have to angle your screw in. Now you have a door. We'll put the screen on. Come back to me. We're gonna put the screen on. We're gonna come back, finish it up, go over a list of exact items that we used, and show you how to put the hinges and hardware on. Okay, finishing up your cage and putting your hardware on and some other stuff. I want you to see what we did. Come on this way, buddy. We fastened our screen nice and tight. And we didn't skimp on the staples on the top part. We staggered them and put double rows in. The reason being is obviously this, if there's going to be any kind of compromise in the screen, it's going to happen on the top where the animal's constantly poking. If you have any compromise at all, out and gone. Now remember earlier we talked about the scrap wood. Took a piece of scrap wood, about 6 to 8 inch thing, and now what we're going to do is we're going to put it at the very end of the top toward the back. Screw this down right into the other piece. Nice and tight. Now, what that does, guys, is it acts not only as a stabilizer so your cage don't go wiggle, 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 and then you wind up with gaps, but it also helps your hinge. Now come around here. Let me turn this thing up. See how we put our hinges in? Now we made sure that we got some exterior hinges, brass polished, oil polished so that they withstand some of the weather. And when we put the screws in, watch how you put your screws in on your hinges. I know it's hard to see, it's dark, but you tighten and don't over tighten, because the last thing you want to do is over tighten these things. If your hinges break, obviously more compromise and the animal can get out. You want the integrity of the cage being. Now look at the placement of our hinge. We didn't put it at the end, but we didn't put it in the middle, because this is also going to help keep this stable. Remember, you're dealing with wood. You're not dealing with steel or metal or anything like that. You're dealing with wood, so it will bow. And where you put these will also keep your stabilized, or keep your bar stabilized. Now watch what happens. You screwed yours in, right? Austin is also going to go put your top in. Austin's going to get a little fancy on us. He's going to put the top on. He's going to put a little handle grip. When you're using 2x4, unlike if you're using a 1x2 or something smaller, this top's going to be really heavy. And you got to be real careful not to hit yourself in the head with it. Sometimes just a little handle, a few bucks at the hardware store.
As in, we get hit in the head all the time. So
we do. Okay, now turn it back. Come back around the other side, Bubba. Okay. So here's your finished cage, almost. Big, heavy 2x4. Now watch what. Show them that side, on this side here.
Try not to get our heads hit.
No, Bubba, come on the other side. Look, show this.
Look at this stopper that we got.
Now it's a stopper that gives you good integrity, and now the wood itself is not only stopping it from putting too much pressure on your hinge, but it's also keeping your stabilized balance here. Now watch this, guys. Come here. This is a 2x4 top. Watch this. Imagine that hits you in the head. That ain't no joke. That's not an owie injury. That's a potential hospital visit. If you stitch it, it'll hit you in the back of the neck, it can do some damage. But look how nice and stable that keeps that. Okay, so completed cage here and here. You see what we do is we make the different levels, different sections. We make multiples of them. We cut the wood. In the video, you'll see a whole list of the sizes and how many and the quantities of the wood that you need to cut. Here's your. Remember, we kept this here so that you could put your hinge still on here and yet open it up. Come in the front. Look what we did with the. What we used was a special type of hasp because we had a little more overhang on this one. We could have accommodated by making this shorter if we wanted. This section here we could have made shorter, but since we did it and we wanted the hinge to be straight, we had a little bit of overhang, so we used a different kind of hinge that just folds over like that and can go back and forth. Perfect. Now remember, we said this over and over again. Don't let that top fall on your head. It'll put you in a hospital, maybe in the cemetery. But it's good for takers because they can't get out of it. Here's your finished cage. If you have any questions, send us a comment. Thank you.